Welcome into an emergency live reaction show. I'm Tommy Ashley. We are sponsored by Johnny T-shirt and Congruity. Uh, Buck Sanders joins me. I feel like I was at the Best Buy 20 years ago when the Black Friday doors opened, and everybody came rushing in. It was 240 people at the front door waiting to get in on this show. And here we are. Taylor Vippolis has joined me as well. Taylor, I'm gonna get you in here first. I hope your audio is good. I know this is rushed to put together, and for folks watching this now, we will reconvene the famous Inside Carolina Roundtable at 8 o'clock tonight with Greg Barnes joining us as well. Taylor, you've got the byline. Mack Brown out following the 2024 season at North Carolina. Don't know if that's surprising to anyone, but sitting in a coffee shop this morning with my first world problems, and I get the text that it's time to go. Yeah, a little surprising for a Tuesday. Taylor, what you got?
Yeah, I think I stunned Ben a bit when I messaged him. But this has been something that's been in the works where they were there were discussions about trying to figure out a way for this to end where both sides kind of agreed. North Carolina didn't want Mack Brown to return. Mack Brown wanted to return. There was hopes that they could work out some kind of agreement. Nothing could be reached. I think there was hope that this would go on after the NC State game, but this was either a hey, you're either going to retire or you're fired. Mack Brown did not want to retire, so that's why we were left with this situation.
Yeah, of course. Yesterday, if folks watch these, and Taylor, you're a little quiet, I think on my end. It might just be me. People in the chat. Obviously, this is rushed to put together, so if it's not perfect audio, it will be later this evening. Um, and somebody's already said, "Can we turn Taylor up in the chat?" But if you watched yesterday's press conference, Evan Rogers and I covered that for Inside Carolina's Adam and Jeremiah are in the islands, and Buck. Last week the question comes up, and the reports are out there. Mack Brown will return. He's adamant about returning. Evan asked the question. There were several other follow-up questions. Mack made it clear in no uncertain terms that he intended to be back next season, and then this news comes out today. But your overall thoughts? I mean, we've done this for 24 or 5 years together. So coaching changes are nothing new, but Mack Brown, um, being essentially fired at North Carolina is something different for us.
Well, for starters, we should mention that Mack Brown has released a statement that seemed to address the fact that he didn't think this was maybe the perfect time for him to leave, perfect circumstances, but that I think he's going to be a good trooper the rest of the way out in terms of closing the season out and helping the next guy if he can. I don't think there's the bad blood there that might come from just a simple firing. So it looks like Mack Brown has accepted his fate at UNC and is ready to move forward. So that's good. Um, the second part is the timing of this is a little sooner than we expected, at least that I expected. I didn't expect there to be um, a determinative outcome to this situation until after the NC State game. Getting it now is helpful, though. One of the things that we've talked about several times, just among ourselves, is that there's some deadlines coming up. Uh, the signing day class December 4th, and then the portal opens December the 9th. And with those deadlines bearing down on UNC, you would not want to have a lame duck or uncertain situation going on for the head coaching spot. This gives the new person, if they get the hire done in enough time, to have an impact on that deadline of the 4th and the 9th in terms of adding folks to there's Mr. Jason joining us and his little angel baby there in his lap. So, anyway, uh, I think those things are that's all good news. That it's possible they can get a hire done in time for the new guy to have some say so over the personnel that he's going to inherit starting for spring practice. So those things, all those things are positive things to report. And it's just strange to me how this has gone down a little bit. But I think this will be the least important facet of this process is how the actual termination went down. What's important now is what comes next, and that's with the signing day class and with getting the hire, the signing day class, and the portal underway. So that's where we're at so far, and I'm looking forward to moving forward. There's going to be a lot of information flowing in the next few days.
Tommy, how do I sound now? Better?
Yeah, you're louder for sure.
Yeah. So just to recap what I said, in case nobody could hear me, Mack Brown in North Carolina were discussing his future as of this past week, and there was hope that there would come a agreeable exit. One couldn't be reached. Mack Brown wanted to continue coaching. North Carolina did not want him to be their coach next year. And this all happened yesterday. He was basically told either you're going to retire or you're going to be fired. He wanted to keep coaching. That's how we got to the decision today.
Yeah, indeed. Of course, that comes with buyout monies and all that type thing. So I'm not sure I wouldn't have done the exact same thing Mac did in that when we were talking about that kind of money. Jason Staples, I'll get you in here again, folks. This is Inside Carolina at its finest. Folks are all over the country doing this stuff to bring it to you live. 628 people in the chat. Couple that with 774 last night at 2:30 in the morning after a basketball game. Incredible community at Inside Carolina. Be interested to know how many of the same folks are here now that were there last night. But Jason, your thoughts here. Mack Brown out. And you muted.
Twice this year. That's. I guess I'm gonna have to put some money in the jar. I think first of all, I'm sad to see it in a lot of ways, but I do think that for the North Carolina program, this kind of was kind of necessary. And you look at this, the way that the era has changed. You're going to have to things are just going to have to change within the program in general. I mean, Mack Brown, his calling card for decades has been recruiting and being able to bring talent onto the roster to essentially sell his program and what he could bring to the table on that front. And for the first 3 years, I'd say, of the Mack Brown tenure in 2.0, they brought a lot of talent onto campus. I mean, Sam Howell, Drake May, a host of defensive line talent, all sorts of guys that were highly rated players. And ultimately, the wins and the success didn't follow everything on that front. And then you look at this year, and I don't remember exactly what the recruiting ranking is, but it's last I checked, it was something in like the 60s. And you're not out recruiting your in-state rivals and all of that, and you weren't beating them when you did outrank them in recruiting. That makes it really difficult to justify continuing along this direction. I mean, I think the powers that be within the program have to assess that, and they have to say, look, if your calling card is recruiting and the direction in recruiting is not real positive, and then you look at the on-field results of not just this season, but other seasons where you felt like you might have the talent to contend, you're going to have to make a change if you want to be serious. And this is the thing that a serious football program, somebody who wants to be serious about football, is going to have to do. Now, the real question is, how serious are they going to get with the next hire? And that's going to be, this is not an easy job at this point. And this is whoever does this whoever takes this job is going to have to really marshal a lot of support in terms of NIL, in terms of a lot of other things, although the House settlement and other things are gonna change some of that. But this is a different era, a new era, and they're going to have to find somebody, I think, who has a reputation for doing more with less, and then provide as much support to that person as possible.
Yeah, I love Jason in the middle of showing how much this all really ultimately matters with the young ones enjoying the morning. Taylor, I know you got to get out of here, and hopefully we'll see you back again tonight at 8 o'clock. Folks, reminder, 8 o'clock tonight for a full Inside Carolina Roundtable, minus Jason, maybe, depending on flights, but certainly Buck, Greg, Vipp, and myself. But Taylor, just your thoughts here. I mean, this is something that's been coming since the JMU game. But now, folks, what I'm seeing on the message boards, getting text, folks are fretting about recruiting now. There's already been talk of a 26 guy decommitting. All of that stuff's irrelevant if you don't have a head coach to push everything forward and to move up and onward. But Taylor, your take here on this aftermath is we're learning more and we're seeing what's happening here.
Yeah, I think like Jason said, whoever comes into this situation next is going to have their hands full getting Carolina back to a contender. But also looking around the landscape of college football, this offseason is probably one of the best times to find that next coach, because you're looking around and it's like, where are the openings going to come from? There's a chance that an SEC job doesn't open because of buyouts. LSU, Kentucky, Arkansas, Auburn, all those coaches look like they're going to get at least another year. Then you're getting into like West Virginia, Purdue, jobs that are going to be comparable to a Carolina job. So the fact that I think Carolina goes into this already knowing, hey, we don't have our head coach next year, which is a step ahead of some of those other schools. The UNC job is going to be one of the top jobs available, and I think that should help get the best candidate possible this cycle.
Yeah, that's a great point. That, I mean, that this might end up being the best job on this cycle. I mean, it's a tough ask in a lot of ways, but would you rather coach at West Virginia or Purdue or North Carolina? And I don't think that's a question. I think North Carolina is in a tier above those two programs in terms of the way the coaching community would view it. So, in the absence of really, top level jobs, this is a job that a lot of coaches believe they can succeed in, and have more success than Carolina has had. Whether that's true or not it remains to be seen, because Carolina has been a sleeping giant so long that it's been that you wonder whether or not it's actually asleep. But the reality is that this offseason is a really good time for that. It's also a time where you can build very, very quickly through the portal. And one thing that I think Carolina has to think about when they're hiring a coach is, you're going to have some candidates like your Dan Mullins or whomever who've been out of the game for a little bit or whatever. But the Indiana path is a really interesting one right now, because you could go after a coach who is at a school a tier below, who's really had a lot of success and has built a solid roster. And then you want to hire that coach who can bring 30 players with him that he really thinks can play at this level and already know his system and all of that, and bring assistants. That's what Indiana did with Signetti, where they brought a bunch of players. They brought a quarterback, they brought some skill players, they brought some others who could contribute right away, and that led to a very, very rapid turnaround of a program. This is something that you also have to consider is, who potentially is that coach that you hire going to bring with it? And, if you're not hiring a guy that's bringing a bunch with him, then you need to hire a guy that is going to be able to attract portal talent right away. because with the portal, you can, as we've seen, you can go from 19 straight wins to suddenly two out of 14 wins, which is what they just did in Tallahassee. Or you can go from a program that hasn't been winning more than 4 games a season to suddenly being 10-0, like what they did in Indiana. 1 year shifts, 1 year swings are very possible in this era of college football, and they need to hire with that in mind.
Indeed, and Buck, that's what I wanted to get you in here on. And we're talking with Buck Sanders, Taylor Vippolis, Jason Staples here at Inside Carolina. Remember our sponsors. They're the reason we're here. Johnny T-Shirt and JohnnyT-Shirt.com, and Congruity. Email Matt at congruityhr.com for your free assessment. 843 people currently in this live chat. When people say, does anybody give a damn about Carolina football? And then I see 843 people in a live Inside Carolina YouTube chat at noon on a Tuesday. I think people care. Buck.
That's why it is a sleeping giant.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say the sleeping giant, but it's like growing roots. But eventually they wake up. We'll just see when it happens. Buck, I hope it's in our lifetime. But your take here on this coaching aspect of it, I think it is a very big deal that North Carolina's been able to get out in front, like Taylor talked about, like Jason talked about, of being the best job on the market. And that has been the talk since the JMU game, is all these SEC, the Southeastern Conference does not have an opening. They possibly could have Kentucky if Kentucky wants to force an opening to try to get in on this cycle. But until now, to Jason's point, Carolina is the best job on the beat. Your take here, Buck.
Well, I think number one is Jason was talking about the portal, and it's possible to build through the portal now. It's a different dynamic than it once was as far as bringing in the raw materials, which is the players, to the scene of a coaching change. And the other facet of that is, if what we're hearing is correct, it looks like North Carolina is leaning towards a coach hire from the defensive side of the ball. And that being said, that coach may want, we don't know, a different type of player to go along with his scheme. And that guy's going to hire an offensive coordinator that and a defensive coordinator that have particular requirements or favor certain body types and protocols than they've had in the past. For example, it used to be if you were switching from a 4-3 defense to a 3-4 defense, that might take you a couple of recruiting cycles or more to get the top body types that you want to play one over the other. It shouldn't take that long anymore, because you can pluck and choose players that fit in your scheme from the portal to get you where you want to go quicker. So we think that North Carolina's looking on the defensive side of the ball. When they hired Mack Brown, he was hired only 19 hours after they fired Mack Brown.
Fedora.
Larry Fedora.
So, yeah, Larry Fedora. Why can't I remember that guy? Anyway, it was only 19 hours after he was fired before they hired Mack. And I don't know if they're going to be able to operate that quickly in this situation or not, but I think they made the move when they made it to enable them to get ahead of at least the transfer portal situation heading into 2025. So those things are kind of getting directed towards his coaching hire, as they want somebody from the defensive side of the ball. It seems like there's one exception probably to that, but the other part of it is that this change, as it's coming, in live real time to us, we're all having to grab a hold of it as quickly as we possibly can, because we didn't really expect it to get it this quickly. The other final piece of who they might be looking at is different than in previous years, it looks like they're going to hire a young coach. Of the candidates, legitimate candidates that I've heard, none of them are have yet hit 50 years old. So those are the things that we're hearing, and in advance of any other news coming from the coaching search, those are the early returns we've got so far. We'll have an article up, if we haven't got it up already, we'll have one up soon dealing with the 4 candidates that we're hearing the most about.
Yeah, and we'll come back later this evening and discuss more of that in detail, because the way this stuff works, it changes immediately, and you could be watching this and hear the echo, and it's different. Vip, I'm going to let you get your last word in, and then I'm going to come to you, Jason, and then we're going to wrap this one up. Carolina moves on from Mack Brown. Vip, what you got to wrap this segment of our live reaction shows up?
Yeah, I think the one thing would be to not be for the Carolina fan to not be worried with the roster for next year, because I think a lot of that is dependent on who you hire and how quickly they could kind of rebuild a team in the transfer portal. I think there's some interesting names out there. The one name I just have to put out there that drives me crazy every time I see it, where it's like, can we please stop with this? Jeff Saturday. Please, can we stop with this?
He's not on my list. So
please, can we stop with this? Let's let North Carolina get somebody that has shown that they can coach, whether it's at the collegiate or the NFL level. So that's my final word, I guess.
Vip going all in. Jason, your final thoughts here on this segment of the roundtable or this segment of the live reaction today that we bring you. Your point about portal pickups and all that. I look at a team like Colorado, and everybody wants to talk about Deion and all that, but to say they turned around, he's not a candidate in North Carolina, but to say they turned around the program, it's not the same as it used to be. You can bring a whole host of folks like Indiana did from JMU and win big in a Power 2 conference. But Jason, your final thoughts here. Muted again. That's twice on the show.
I think the biggest thing is that that I want, if I'm hiring, there are 2 things, I guess, 2 biggest things. I feel like the Spanish Inquisition here, but I think the biggest 2 things here are, first of all, you have to hire with this hire someone who has a proven track record of being of outstanding results on the field. So you're not just hiring a guy that's a recruiter. You don't want to go and just hire say a sitting Power 5 coach who wants to go somewhere else. You want to hire someone who you think about. Kalen DeBoer as an example. He has had success and won on the field everywhere he's gone. So I think you want to have someone who's got a track record of success at more than one place, ideally. Secondly, I think you have to be very conscious of guaranteed money. I think you want to build in more upside and if possible, hire a coach who's willing to bet on himself with really steep incentives and escalators rather than these, I think, ridiculous guaranteed money contracts that have taken over the college game, where you hire someone and it's a 6 or 7 year, $70 million guaranteed contract, and that just absolutely submarines programs. Right now, you have to have the resources for roster acquisition rather than paying $9 million toward a head coach. And you certainly don't want to guarantee that money so that if things don't work out exactly right, you're paying, $55-60 million to have a guy not coach at your place for the next 5 or 6 years. So those 2 things, I think, are really, really important. You've got to find somebody who has a track record of success, and you cannot guarantee 6-7 years of contract and put yourself in a position where you can't hold a coach accountable.
I agree 100% with that. That is Jason Staples. Buck Sanders' column is dropped on the Tar Pit Premium message board, which gives you all the more reason to be an Inside Carolina Premium subscriber. Not only do you get that Johnny T-shirt discount, you get Buck Sanders' 4 names to know in the UNC coaching search. Buck, solid work there. Folks can check it out. 998 in the chat. Wish I could see 1,000, but maybe we'll see that tonight at 8 o'clock. Join us back here for Inside Carolina Roundtable. But you got one last thing? Anything left as we get out of here and I go eat something?
No, nothing left, except I'll have to say this happened at a time when IC was stretched pretty thin. We got a couple of beat writers in Hawaii. Fortunately, we have a broad enough staff that we can get some stuff done even when our beat reporters are elsewhere, 4,000 or 5,000 miles away. But we really like the way our Inside Carolina staff steps up. Evan Rogers, intern. I wish I could afford to hire him when he graduates from UNC. Maybe he'll offer me a job. I don't know. So Evan has done a great job, and all of our Inside Carolina guys have been killing it, and we're able even to bring you content like this at a time when we don't have a full deck of playing cards. We're still making it happen. So thanks for listening in to us. Appreciate you, and pay attention to our sponsors, Johnny T-shirt and Congruity. That's about all I got, bud.
Appreciate it. That is Buck Sanders, the Presidente, Jason Staples, and of course Taylor Vippolis earlier on the show. We'll be back at 8 o'clock, and also I'll be back at 8 o'clock and probably 2 o'clock in the morning to talk North Carolina basketball again. So join us then. It shall be a busy day. Our shirts say there is no off-season. Well, there's no off-season, even in-season, and there's no time to waste. Inside Carolina right here, everything. Mack Brown out. What's next for North Carolina? We'll talk about it again at 8 o'clock. Thanks for everybody for joining. Hit the like button and sponsorship or sponsor Johnny T-shirt or take care of our sponsors, Johnny T-shirt and Congruity. Thanks, Buck. We'll talk soon.
Later.